Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. We will be getting started in just a few moments to give the opportunity for others to join this virtual town hall meeting. So again, we'll start at about 7:03. Public Safety Town Hall meeting and joining us virtually. I'd like to start tonight's meeting with a moment of silence and salute to the flag. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. So first, I just want to say how proud I am to sit up here alongside our Chief of Police, Jim Wright, and our Borough Administrator, Kyle Harris. These two men here are true professionals that care deeply about Garwood, and they want the best for the town. And I'm proud to have them in these two important leadership positions. So after my short opening tonight, Chief Wright will make a presentation to everyone. Administrator Harris is here. He is taking notes. He is here to help moderate if needed and to help answer any questions if they do apply to his office. So we will open up our meeting for your questions, any ideas you may have, or any comments you'd like to share with us following Chief Wright's presentation tonight. So I'd like to start my opening by saying that I'm sure many of you have heard me talk about how safety is a top priority for us here at Garwood. And these are truly not just words, but rather a belief that are backed up by actions of our local government. Garwood has been known as a safe community overall, but we must always strive to be better. This belief in public safety as a priority has been shown through our support of our police department budgets, and capital expenses, such as vehicles and other equipment. To be clear, this doesn't mean that every item requested is funded, but it does mean that all the necessary ones are. I'm proud to say that prior to my time as mayor, when I was a member of the council, I supported bringing our police department staffing back up to 16 sworn officers. And that's 16 sworn officers, including the chief, which is the level that we are at today as well. And I did this even when not everyone on the council supported that idea of bringing us whole back to 16 sworn officers. As mayor, I supported the original inclusion of the hiring of a 17th officer through the 2020 budget before we were hit with the COVID-19 pandemic. And we all know how much of our world has really been rocked because of that pandemic, as it started in 2020 and continues to linger with us to this day. Our community as a whole is incredibly supportive of our police department, and I'm very, very proud of that. However, public safety is not just about what the police can do for us. It is about what we can do, and frankly, what we must do ourselves to keep ourselves and others safe. Some people may think that it can't happen to them or it can't happen here in a small town. The truth is, problems and tragedies can occur anywhere, at any time, and involving any one of us. Just today, I read an article published yesterday in the Clark Garwood Patch called "Group of Linden Students Hit by Car While in Crosswalk," which explained that 3 high school students were hit in Linden yesterday morning while they were in the crosswalk, and that 1 Scotch Plains Fanwood High School student was hit this past Monday. That's 4 children in 2 days, and that took place near the Scotch Plains Fanwood High School. 2 of the 4 needed to go to the hospital, but their injuries were fortunately not life-threatening. But a scary moment for those children, for their parents, for their friends, for their teachers, etc. So from time to time, we are reminded of the fragility of our lives. I think I speak for everyone when I say how impactful the loss of 2 pedestrians, 2 Garwood residents, was to all of us when they died in 2020 in fatal accidents while crossing the street. And I carry those 2 around with me in my heart, and I believe many members of our Garwood community do as well. The first tragedy occurred in late January of 2020 when 65-year-old Garwood resident Nedra Clark was walking home after commuting back from work when she was accidentally struck by a vehicle near her home and died. And I didn't know Nedra personally, but she lived around the corner from me. You know, here in Garwood, we are all neighbors and we all care deeply for one another. The second tragedy occurred in early December when 81-year-old Garwood resident Catherine Kitty Flint was struck by a vehicle and died. And I did know Kitty personally, and honestly, it was a true honor to know Kitty. Anybody that knew her knows what I'm about to say is true. She really had a spark to her. She was never afraid to tell it like it is, and I think we can all appreciate people like that. So after Kitty passed away, I spoke with her husband and also her best friend to offer my condolences to them on behalf of our whole town. And I assured them that we would do everything possible to make sure what happened to Kitty and Nedra before her would not happen again. We had taken action, such as LED stop signs and rumble strips prior to these fatal accidents. We then took numerous actions beginning in January of this year to put in place the necessary funding for new projects, as well as additions to already established projects like the ones I just mentioned. And we did that to help improve pedestrian safety through traffic calming measures here in the borough. The chief will explain more about those and about enforcement that we have put in place already and that we will also be putting in place in the near future. So public safety includes pedestrian safety, but of course it doesn't stop there. So Chief Wright will be talking about other areas of importance with everyone this evening that should stay on the forefront of our minds as well. So I definitely look forward to hearing your questions, your ideas, your comments for us about this extremely important topic after Chief Wright's presentation tonight. And at this time, I will turn it over to Chief Wright for his presentation. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Can you put on the presentation, please? Okay. For everybody that's online, thank you for logging in. I appreciate the time that you're giving to us, and I'd just like to go through this PowerPoint. It's going to keep me focused, so I'm not spending a lot of time talking about exactly what I'm doing right now. So if you can turn to the next slide, please. This slide is a graphic of our uniform crime reporting, which is the reporting that we have to do to the state and to the FBI annually. It's a way that we report and that they can tabulate the crime per capita in each community in the country. If you see here, I gave you a 5-year trend from our UCR reporting. I also included 2021, although that is only a partial reporting, so that number is greatly reduced than the other 5 years. But you'll see that the trends are pretty I wouldn't say standard, but consistent throughout the years. And what we normally see is the larcenies and the disorderly person offenses. Disorderly person offenses really encapsulate a lot of petty disorderly issues, from harassment, nuisance complaints, to loud and tumultuous behavior, public drunkenness. Those are the kind of DP offenses that you would see in that. And so those are the two major crimes that we're usually dealing with, is larcenies, which is your thefts, anything from shoplifting to the kind of theft you'd see between people that know each other. So those would be the basic ones. Our violent offenses, your homicides, your rapes, your robberies, they are very, very low in Garwood. If you can go to the next slide, please. This is showing the actual 5-year average of events per year. As you can see, homicide, rape, and robbery, almost none. I think we can record, there was one sexual assault in that 5-year period. There were no homicides, no robberies. Burglaries, we do have, between residential and motor vehicle burglaries, we do have our events every year. Aggravated assaults are very low. Simple assaults are not as severe as aggravated assaults. They don't involve weapons. The injuries are minimal, so you'll see a little bit more of a frequency in them. And motor vehicle thefts, we average one event per year. Sometimes it's a little bit more. Sometimes we don't have any. Fraud cases, they're becoming more and more common. Fraud cases can be anything from online fraud, check scams, even the Social Security scams. Narcotics events, if you notice, I highlighted that in yellow, and that's because you're going to see that trending way down with the new marijuana laws. Also, some of the laws that have been in place that have really affected those numbers are the Good Samaritan laws, which really affect when somebody's calling 911 for help for somebody who's in an overdose situation. In the past, we would have charged, but since that law, which is over 5 years now, those events, we do not charge if somebody's calling for help. And so you see those numbers have gone dramatically down as well. DWIs have been pretty standard over the years. We average anywhere from a half dozen to a dozen and a half DWIs annually. And of course, disorderly persons events, those are the ones that I just discussed, and they're the most frequent of the events. And of course, unfortunately, domestic violence, which is something that's always been around, and hopefully we can do more for, but we average around 33 events annually in domestic violence offense. If you can go to the next slide, thank you. Our current year trend, and this is only a 6-month recording, you can just look for yourself. We have had 2 residential burglaries. I can't comment on those other than they are ongoing investigations, and that at this time, our investigations do not lead us to believe that they were related. So they were 2 separate incidents. We haven't had any aggravated assaults, although we have had simple assaults. Larcenies, like I said, anywhere from shoplifting to your regular theft from a locker at a gym would be considered a larceny. And we have had 2 motor vehicle thefts. Fortunately, both vehicles were recovered. One was from a driveway, a residence, and the other one was from an auto body shop in town. Fraud cases, again, as I discussed, they're becoming more prevalent as online crimes are increasing. Narcotics offenses, again, it's in yellow because with the anticipation of the new narcotics laws and marijuana laws, there was a moratorium on charging. So we weren't charging for marijuana possession, and that was the bulk of our narcotics offenses prior to the moratorium. DWIs, we did have 2 this year, and disorderly persons and domestic violence, you can see there, about consistent with our 5-year trends. So when I talk about burglaries, residential and auto, again, people right away want to know how to protect themselves better. There's really some really simple ways to protect yourself. Keep your doors and windows locked. Simply put, good habits go a long way. You've heard of the 9 p.m. routine. That simply means before you go to bed, make sure your doors are locked, make sure your cars are locked, make sure your house is well lit and it's not inviting to people of opportunity. Update your locks. If you have older doors, older door locks, it's time to get new ones. That is the easiest way to gain entry, is to breach a door that is older. Reinforce the doors, windows, locks, and hardware, again, going along with that. Using motion sensing lights outside, trim bushes and shrubs to remove blind spots. It's nice to have a well-landscaped yard, but if you create opportunities for people to hide, it makes it more inviting for them to take opportunities at your house. And be smart about a hide key. Everybody knows about the brick. Everybody knows about the rock. Don't be so obvious with a hide key. And key fobs. Please don't get in the habit of leaving a key fob in a car. That's the easiest way for a car to be stolen out of your driveway. It's a crime of opportunity where they're looking randomly for cars with key fobs in them. Then they can simply turn the car on and drive away. If you have a higher end car, here's a hint for you. If you have a higher end car, your mirrors are probably going to go in when your key fob is out of the car. It's a standard feature in a lot of high end cars. So when you're parked, your mirrors go in. However, if your key fob's in the car, your mirrors may stay out. It's a high end car. That's an indicator that the key fob may be in the car. And keep your valuables out of sight. What is becoming increasingly popular is thefts from automobiles in front of gyms or where gym parking lots are. And the reason is they know how long you're going to be in there, approximately an hour to an hour and a half. And if you leave your bag in the front seat or on the floor in the front seat, they know they got time to get that bag out. So don't leave your valuables where they're visibly accessible. That's an invitation. Okay, the next slide is going into motor vehicles. MVC stands for motor vehicle crash. In New Jersey, we don't call them accidents. There are no such thing as accidents in New Jersey. Somebody is at fault, so they call them crashes. If you can look at this, it's a 10-year pattern of crashes on the graph. And we were pretty consistent. There were a couple of years that we were over 250 crashes that year, but by and large, we're between 200 and 250 annually. You'll see that precipitous drop in 2020. I think everybody knows what that was all about. When people were quarantined, the vehicles were not on the road. Our accident numbers went down. Most of the state went up, especially on highways, but we went down. On the side of this graph, you'll see that our 10-year average for crashes involving pedestrians is 5.64. So we're usually around 5 to 6 pedestrian accidents annually. 18% of the pedestrian crashes occur in marked crosswalks. And a third of our pedestrians involve crashes in parking lots. So our common pedestrians in parking lots were ShopRite, the Garwood Plaza, the Garwood Mall. The next slide is a slide we got from our Safe Smart, our Street Smart report. I believe that's still available online on the Garwood website. But this is a graphic map of the 5 years between 2015 and 2019 and the locations of accidents on our roadways. This is excluding accidents in those parking lots that we were speaking of. And if you look, the yellow indicates a pedestrian and the green indicates a bicyclist. The majority, overwhelmingly, of our pedestrian and cyclist accidents occurred on our corridor of North Avenue and South Avenue. We did have accidents on side streets, and those are the streets that we're always looking to address safety on: East, Spruce, 2nd Avenue. And then we had one down on 3rd Avenue on the 100 block, and we have one on 4th and Oak. But primarily, we're addressing that central corridor where we see the most of our pedestrian and cyclist accidents. So how are we addressing accidents? Well, it's trying to reduce them. It's trying to make our roads safer. One of the first tools that we use is our traffic studies, and we get that mostly from speed data. The first picture is one of our pole-mounted radar units, and the middle picture is our radar trailer. And of course, we do have radar in all the cars. The two on the left-hand side, the pole-mounted and the trailer, actually collect data. So we will actually go out to those locations and pull the data. It's done by wireless from one of the vehicles. And then we can actually make reports with that data to find out not only if there's a problem there, but when the problem is, specifically if by hour or by day. We can actually look at traffic counts to see what the volume is. That helps when we're looking at issues when residents come to us and they want to say a four-way stop, or they want to see if we can do more traffic control at a specific spot. One of the first things we're going to need for the engineer is a traffic count. So it doesn't just give us data on speed and time of day, but it also tells us how many cars are traveling on a specific roadway and what time of day those vehicles are traveling. If you go to the next slide. This is the report and what we're looking at when we're pulling data from the radar trailer. The radar signs are a little bit different. They look a little bit different, but the data is more or less the same. They just don't have the same kind of graphs on them. They're just done from a different company. But this is the general idea of what we're looking at when we're looking at speed data. This first page here, if you can see it highlighted here, this was on the 200 block of Cedar Street southbound. We were collecting data on southbound cars. So we were on the 200 block just north of 2nd Avenue, and we were collecting data as those cars approach over the hill. So it's a good blind target for us. They don't see us coming until they're over the hill, and that's a good place to collect data, and that's why we set up there. You can see that this was done between May 22nd of 2019 and May 28th of 2019. And when we move that trailer around, we can set it up. We do that spot monitoring from time to time on those crucial streets. And we want to take a look at this data. And that's this front page here. It's going to tell you that the dependent message was on, meaning that the sign was telling you if you're going too fast to slow down. It's an interactive sign at that point where if you're going at a certain speed over the speed limit, it's going to give you a warning. If you're going a little bit faster, it's going to flash at you. If you're going even faster, it's going to yell at you. All right, so it's an interactive dependent message. We can also put the radar trailer in a stealth mode where there's no display, and that's when we want to generate raw data on speed. This tells us if they're interacting with the sign, but if we want to get a real good count of what the speeds look like, we'll just turn the sign off so people just think it's dead on the side of the road, but it's actually collecting data. If you can go to the next slide. Again, this is the information we're getting from this report. That top one, it's a compliance percentage per hour. Green means everybody is doing the speed limit. Yellow is between 25 and 30. And then if you see orange, it's 30 to 35, and red is anything above that. So on Cedar at this particular window between May 22nd and May 28th of 2019, we had a very good compliance ratio going on there. You can see the compliance by hour, and of course, the volumes go up during rush hour. It starts around 6 a.m. and towards 8 o'clock, it's starting to slow down again, but that's to be expected. The speeds, if you're looking at this graph here, you'll see that the red is the green is the target speed. That is the 25 mile an hour speed limit. The red is an 85th percentile. 85th percentile means it's a standard from DOT saying we want 85% of the cars to be within 5 miles of the posted speed limit. If we're not getting those numbers, then we need to engage more with either engineering, enforcement, education. But if we're not hitting the 85th percentile, which is 85% of the vehicles on that roadway within 5 miles of the posted speed limit, we need to go out and address that. So we're always looking at the 85th percentile in that respect. You can go to the next slide, please. And this is the change in speed as risk threshold. And this is that messaging I'm talking about. We're looking to see if the messaging it was successful when we were posting it. So as they're approaching that hill, what was their speed? Did they slow down when they saw the sign telling them to slow down? Or were they doing the speed limit prior to that? So that's what this graph is right here. And of course, I was talking about traffic volume. You can see the volume per hour. This is over that period. So they took all the vehicles in those given hours from those days that we were looking at. The next slide, please. Yep, there you go. Okay, the average vehicle speeds. You can see here that the majority of the vehicles were traveling between 21 and 25 miles an hour. We did have some vehicles going between 25 and 30, and very few going between 31 and 35 miles an hour over speed limit. So what we were seeing here was a good 85th percentile on Cedar, and we were happy with these numbers. You can go to the next one. This is just the last page of the report. I was just showing you the entirety of the report of what we're going to look at when we grab data from the speed trailer. And this is the volume per day. Tuesday, there was, I asked our traffic officer about this. He said that was probably low battery mode. So that's not a consistent number for a Tuesday. But when I saw that, I said, that doesn't look right. He said, yeah, that was probably a low battery mode. So, and that does happen. And this is the overall summary. How many vehicles slowed? You can see the majority of vehicles did slow down as a result of the interaction with the display. And you could also see the compliance here. And so, like I said, this was a very positive report from Cedar. You go to the next page, please. What we do see over and over again are the 85th percentile, the main roads that we're always concerned about. Center Street, which the 85th percentile is 35 miles per hour. That is unacceptable, and we need to slow that down. Spruce Avenue, which is at 32 miles per hour. And again, we were talking anything below 30 miles an hour would be considered an acceptable 85th percentile according to DOT standards. And Second Avenue, which is our third in the hierarchy there of the streets that we're always addressing. And they're consistently at 31 miles per hour. This is over time. We're always collecting data, and we're seeing consistently these numbers from those streets. And then underneath that would be the secondary streets that we want to address: 4th Avenue, Cedar Street, E Street, Pine Avenue. Thank you. Going to the next slide. Our summonses. I could actually go back to 1986. I can't go back further because we simply don't know where those records are anymore. They're so far gone. But I can actually give you accurate summons totals from going back to 1986 to present. You can see we were trending up until 2020. 2020, like everything else, we saw a precipitous drop. A lot of that was on me. That was on direction of me to have less of a footprint on the public. At the beginning of COVID-19, we were trying to make sure that our first responders were healthy and safe so they could respond to actual severe emergencies. And so the idea was to minimize their footprint on the general public when not necessary. So we did have a more passive approach to motor vehicle enforcement in the beginning of the year. And as 2020 went on, we started to ramp it up again, where we're back up to where we were with our enforcement issues. Going into what we've been doing with traffic safety, and this, again, as the mayor had mentioned, we started this before we had those two unfortunate fatalities. We knew that pedestrians we were getting more pedestrians. We were going to grow as a population, and there were more cars on the road. And we knew that safety for everybody, motorists and pedestrians alike, and cyclists, was going to be paramount. So we started with, when you look at Spruce and West Street, when you look at Pine and East, those were two of the first streets that we addressed. And we did that with rumble striping and adding LED stop signs to those intersections. I don't have enough data on those intersections yet, but it's my opinion at this time that we have had an impact on safety there. We did not have large occurrences of accidents at those intersections, but the accidents we did have were pretty severe. And we haven't seen those kind of accidents really since those improvements were made. But it's too soon to really report that as a success story. We have to see over time if that continues. We're going to add more rumble striping at some other intersections, namely 2nd and Oak, 2nd and Cedar. I'm talking off the top of my head. I think there's one more on 3rd and Cedar. And then we're going to do some more on the south side of town. They are efficient, they're economical. And as I said, I do believe that they are having an impact on safety at those intersections where they already are. And we're also adding LED stop signs, primarily at those locations that I just addressed. A lot of that's going to come, number one, between my budget and some grant opportunities that I have pending right now. Can you go back a little bit? There you go. Yeah, so when those grant opportunities are coming up, we're applying for them. If we do get awarded, we're going to try to do as much improvement with those grants. If not, they're going to come straight out of my budget. If you look at the picture right next to the stop sign, you'll see that was the calming shoulders, or bicycle lanes as some people address them. Really what they do is they're a visual cue to the subconscious. They narrow the look of the road. Center Street is a very wide road that is tempting for speeding. It's kind of a subconscious thing where when you have a wide open road, studies have shown that people will speed. As you put these lanes down, these channelization lanes down, it gives a visual cue that the road is narrower, and subconsciously people do slow down. I can't tell you if that is effective yet, again, because that's something we're going to have to look at over time. But there has been plenty of research on that. And right next to that, that's one of the flashing pedestrian signals that we have now. We put them at 6 locations in town. Please use them. I see a couple of times now that people are crossing without using them. It's a great early warning device for people crossing the street. It gives motorists way more time to see you, and they might not even notice you if they don't see that flashing beacon. So please get in the habit of starting to use those, and please teach your kids to use them whenever they're crossing the street and they have the opportunity to use them. And lastly, over there was the boxes that we've been painting on all the corners. The DPW did a great job this year, and they marked them all out. That's in lieu of painting the curbs yellow, but it still means the same. It is no parking zone. And why they're there is it's a state statute. It's 50 feet from a stop sign. It is 25 feet from a intersection. And that is to improve the line of sight so that if a car was parked there, they would obstruct the vision of the motorist, and maybe they won't see a pedestrian who's crossing in that crosswalk. But if you keep that open with the no parking there, you're going to open up the visual for motorists that are going to be able to see those pedestrians and make it safer. So we've been able to do every intersection in town. That was, again, great work on the DPW's job. And we're going to continue with striping, whether it is with the rumble striping or with improved crosswalk designs. We're going to keep doing that. And I hope you've noticed as well, a lot of the crosswalks have been improved or updated with new painting and visuals. Can you go to the next slide, please? This is the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, or RRFB, that I was just talking about. We have them at 6 locations: 4th and Walnut, 3rd and Walnut, 2nd and Walnut, 2nd and Cedar, Willow and Center, Myrtle and Center. And if you're looking at the picture, you can see the arrows are depicting 4 pedestrian crosswalk signs. If you hit the button on any one of those signs, and I highlighted that with a yellow circle on the one closest to you on the right-hand side, you hit that button, every one of the beacons on that intersection will be flashing, and it gives you enough time to cross from one side to the other. So it's, depending on what street you're on, it's between 13 and 17 seconds, which is ample time to cross the street. I am encouraging everybody, again, please use them. They do work, and they do make people safer. Next slide. There are some other initiatives that we've been working on. Again, some of this was before those tragic fatalities. The mayor brought to me an idea of Street of the Week. It was something that I did just to see what would happen, and we did get positive response, especially from people who have approached us requesting their street to be Street of the Week. and it seems to be very positive when we're there. So if you do have any issues on your street, speeding or otherwise, and you want your street designated street of the week, just reach out to us either by our contact through our website, or you come right to the window and request your street to be a street of the week. And that's our cue to be in that neighborhood for that week, more prevalent than, just our normal patrol. We also initiated the Street Smart campaign. That's a statewide campaign. That is an overall pedestrian safety campaign. It's more about education and enforcement. Our targeted intersection was South Avenue and Center Street for very logical reasons. If you remember that map, it's one of the bigger areas for frequency for pedestrian accidents. And this was not just about motorists, but it was about educating pedestrians as well, making sure people cross in the crosswalks with the light, not against them. We were active in engaging people when they were crossing outside of crosswalks in mid-block, or if they were crossing against the signal, to approach them, to give them informative pamphlets. And it was a month-long campaign in April, so everybody saw those posters. As you can see us holding them up there. And like I said, it was part of an overall campaign, but being part of the Street Smart campaign gives us opportunities to participate next year, to get more support from the state, more support from Street Smart New Jersey, from Ride Safe, a lot of organizations that take part. They give us a lot of support when it comes to helping us with grants, helping us with even manpower. They came out to do the traffic impact studies. So they were a really good help in getting that campaign going. I think we're going to, I know we're going to continue doing that as the years move on. And we're going to be a little bit more engaging in the next one when we don't have, COVID issues, that we have to account for. And also the Drive Safe social media information that we're constantly putting out. Those are some of the other things that we're doing other than the infrastructure improvements. And anybody have any questions?
Okay. Well, Chief, I do want to thank you for that very thorough presentation about what we've already done and what we plan to do moving forward. And at this time, we'll open up the meeting for the members of the public who wish to ask us questions, share ideas, or state any comments. Chief and I can't, but Mr. Harris can.
Our Chief Mayor, I have a written comment here. It says, what up here? Coming out of my driveway on Cedar Village at Garwood, sometimes there's our big trucks or SUVs parked on the right. They totally block my view of oncoming traffic from Cedar. Any way to paint one of those yellow things there so no car can park? Many of us at the apartment complex are not only elderly, but have poor eyesight.
Yes, you may.
Perfect. Okay, well, that's a great question. The answer is yes and no. We can't just paint one because what we did was actually through state statute. As I said, it's 25 feet from a crosswalk, 50 feet from a stop sign. We can, however, look at that through laws and licensing and see if that's something that we can address through ordinance. So it may take a little longer than you would like, but we can look at that.
Chief, just to clarify, when you mean look at it by ordinance, could we put something about no parking within certain amount of feet of that entrance exit?
Correct.
Okay.
You can, by ordinance, designate any area as a no parking zone. And so that's something that we could definitely take a look at. I would do that through my traffic officer, consult the borough engineer, although I don't think that this is a heavy lift for us if it's a safety issue.
Okay, very good. I will make sure that laws and license gets that, and we will. I already took a note of it, but Mr. Harris, we also have a record of what's in the chat.
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and who are we opening the line for?
We
Jackie?
have Mr. Jotz.
Okay, so go
Yes.
right ahead, Josh.
Hi, Chief. Jeff Jotz here. The data was really amazing. I was very eye-opening. I spoke with some residents over on the north side, and they were asking about the possibility of a traffic light at Walnut and Second Avenue. Can you explain, maybe if that's a good idea, not a good idea? What are the obstacles or advantages to it? Any feedback on that at all?
Yes, we can take a look at that. Again, going back to the radar trailer, it's going to probably start with a traffic count, doing a traffic volume count. I would definitely consult the borough engineer on that. He's very knowledgeable on MUTCD specifications, which are the standards to get something like a traffic control device placed there. And I would also use my traffic officer who would give me a report that I would submit to the engineer and then take it from there. I couldn't tell you at this point if Second and Walnut is viable for a traffic control signal. That would have to come out through a study.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Great. Thank you for that. Do we have anyone else on the virtual meeting right now that would like to ask the chief or any of us a question or share an idea with us? And I do want to say something related to that, just that Chief Wright here has a wonderful open door.
Thank you, Mayor.
And I think it's of our Oh, I apologize. My microphone just turned off on me. So just to reiterate with the chief's excellent open door policy, he's willing to listen to any residents that have any concerns, or maybe they have an idea for how they think things should be done better. You can call the chief, email the chief, or just come into the police department and speak with him. And as I was saying before as well, one of the benefits of being in our small town is that you have access right to the top of the chain of command, our chief of police. You don't go to one person who then has to wait to go up the chain. You're going right to the top. So please take advantage of that. And I'd say with all of our officials, it's the same. With me, you can come right to me if you have any concerns about anything or ideas, questions, and the same with Mr. Harris as our borough administrator. Very accessible. I'll just keep my mask off for a minute. Mr. Harris, I know the answer to this, but I want to ask you so that everyone is aware. Tonight's meeting is being recorded, and where could people find it if they'd like to watch it again, or let a friend or neighbor know, and then they know where they can go to look for this?
Yes, it'll be posted to our YouTube page, and we will also be putting up on Facebook as well as the chief's PowerPoint presentation. We'll have that up on Facebook as well.
Okay.
And if anybody would like a emailed copy of the Facebook or the PowerPoint presentation, please email me at garwood@garwood.org, and I will get that over to you.
The microphone keeps turning off. So I apologize. So again, the presentation is on the website and Facebook page. And then this recording of our video tonight, our meeting, will be on the Garwood Borough YouTube channel. Do we have any other questions or comments at this time?
Mayor, we have another written comment.
Wonderful.
In the coming years, we're going to have a lot of more pedestrians and cars in Garwood due to new apartment complexes opening. Do you foresee any problems for this in town?
I wouldn't characterize it as foreseeing it as a problem, but we are going to have to make adjustments with expansion. We know right now that there are more cars on the road, as I said. We know that there will be more cars. With the design of the new project, I think we do have a safe design with the mid-block crosswalk, with the Russo design on South Avenue. We are looking at the North Avenue project. I think that's going to be, again, a very pedestrian-friendly design. Both of those projects are designed for the walking commuter. And so I think with that in mind, I think pedestrian safety is going to be paramount for both of them. But I do see issues with just an influx of people, the higher volume of vehicles. We're going to be on top of that, though. We have to keep an eye on everything and adjust when we have to.
Thank you, Chief. I know we've spoken about this before, but I think it's pertinent to what was just brought up about the new developments going up on South Avenue and eventually on North Avenue as well. And so everyone is aware, the North Avenue project right now is in the site plan phase before the planning board. The next meeting of the planning board is on September 22nd. So you can come here to Borough Hall or you can watch it on our YouTube channel. But at the site plan, those details like crosswalk and pedestrian flashing beacons, which are part of the project, will be discussed at length. And the public is welcome to ask questions and state their comments at those meetings. The South Avenue project had its site plan approval done for the main phase of the project on the northern side of South Avenue. And it had its prior approval for the second phase of the project on the southern side of South Avenue. But they are coming before the board yet again. And they've spoken to us now at 2 meetings. And when I say the board, I mean the planning board. But they are continuing that at the September 22nd meeting as well. So the public's always encouraged to attend those meetings. But Chief, I just wanted to bring up the amount of staff that we have in our police department. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 16 sworn officers, and that does include our police chief. And it's something that I fought for years ago to get us back to that 16-person level when it had been at 15 for a few years. But also, as I said, I supported, and I know many members, if not all members of the council, had vocalized support for the inclusion of a 17th officer in the 2020 budget. But like I said, COVID happened, upended our whole world. And, you know, we really had to strap in the belts extra because of the amount of people losing their jobs, businesses struggling, businesses closed, et cetera. So it's definitely something that I would still support. I want you to know that. And I think you know that already, but I absolutely would support that. And I hope everybody in Garwood would. And I think this is the reason why, in part, is how long have we been at 16 sworn officers with that little blip when we were at 15? Overall, about how many years?
I'd have to go back, but I'm going to say we probably got up to this level sometime around 95, in and around 95.
So it's been roughly 25 years at
Roughly,
the same level.
yeah, roughly 25 years
Mhm.
at this level, yes.
So I would say even without the redevelopment projects underway, we would be talking about a 17th officer anyway.
Yeah, not only is it the influx of people and cars that we're talking about, there's a lot more involved administratively within the department. A lot more requirements on us brought down from the Attorney General's office, from the prosecutor's office, a lot more training involved. And all of that eats up a lot of time on the back end. So it takes away from an officer's ability to patrol when they're in a class, you know, for a 2 or 3 day mandatory class, and everybody's got to go through it. Those classes are becoming more and more prevalent. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing that we are engaged, we are training, we're trying to be better at our job. But it also requires a lot more from us away from those patrol hours. So I do foresee not only with the influx of people and cars, the other requirements put upon law enforcement at this time, that we do need more manpower.
Absolutely. I would certainly agree with you. The times are a lot different than 1995, right,
Yes.
Chief?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm. Absolutely. And in many professions, I know in teaching as well, it's more and more that's pushed down from the state. And it's a good thing. it's good to have better training and variety of training. But like you said, that's time that's not spent patrolling the streets.
Absolutely.
Mhm. All right. Do we have any other questions or comments or ideas that anybody would like to share with us at this time? Okay. Mr. Harris? Did we get another one? This is our first time doing an informal town hall style meeting like this, but I hope that because it's virtual, people could participate in greater numbers. And knock on wood, so far so good. We could keep doing this with other topics for the future as well. Okay, so we have a comment from Leonia. Okay, thank you, Mr. Harris.
This was just a follow-up comment on the redevelopment on the north side of town. The north one is right after the curve and can be dangerous as to the sight line.
Right.
Okay, I know this is still before the planning board, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I know we have submitted our findings on the initial design. Officer Kleinsorgen is my traffic officer, and I know he did address some concerns we have with sightline. I don't know where we are in that stage, so I don't know if I can comment any further, except to say that we have looked at the plans and we have made recommendations in terms of sightline and crosswalks and pedestrian safety.
And if anybody would like to speak, just please hit the raise hand button and we will allow you to speak.
I did want to mention something that had actually come up a couple times with residents reaching out to me. And also I had heard something from someone at the planning board about the yellow boxes that were painted as the chief discussed. And it's per state statute, how far they are away from the corner and so forth. But, you know, the reaction I heard at first, and chief, I think you did as well, was, hey, wait, you're taking away our parking. But that's not the truth. That parking should have never been, because it would have been infringing or parking illegally per state law. So this is a way also to help our officers crack down on that and keep the line of sight clear. So it's not taking away parking, it's improving safety. And I'll take safety over parking any day. I think we all will. So please, I urge everyone to spread the word on that. It's not a detriment here. It's actually to keep people safe. Did you want to say anything? You don't have to. I see someone else just joined our meeting, so if there is anyone that would like to ask a question or state a comment, please feel free to hit the raise hand button to be called on, and you can speak to us that way. And you could also put your comment or question in the chat, as some have chosen to do tonight. Okay, so let's at least leave it open for 2 more minutes to give everybody an opportunity if they would like to speak to us. But again, I know the chief can always be reached. You can call over to the police department for him. You can send him an email. You can stop in. Myself, I'm accessible by email, stedisco@garwood.org. You can also call my cell phone number. As Councilman Carney tells me, I put this cell phone number out more than most.
And we have another written comment. Is there a document to outline the safety measures for Second Avenue?
All right, I'm not sure if you're looking for a specific document, we do often go back to Second Avenue, specifically Second and Walnut, Second and Cedar, and Second and Oak. We have looked at things like a four-way stop at Second and Cedar, Second and Oak. They were determined not to be viable because of traffic counts. Again, I'm going back into this minutia of traffic counts, but it matters when you're trying to get a four-way stop. One of the minimum requirements is that both sides of the intersection need to be of similar volume. And that means if you have a more frequently traveled road that's intersecting a less frequently traveled road, and that's the instance we have with Second Avenue in relation to Second and Cedar and Second and Oak, we were told that they would not be viable for four-way stops. So that was one of those things that we were looking at there that we wanted to see if we can address. We have looked at other ideas, but we don't have a single document that would address overall safety on Second Avenue. I hope I'm addressing that question to your satisfaction.
Chief, I could follow up with that too. We do plan on installing LED stop signs at Second and Oak, Second and Cedar, Second and Walnut as well, or no? Definitely the first two. I know.
Definitely the first two, but we can always improve on things and expand on things. So we did start with the first two intersections. We found that to be economical and effective, and it's something that we want to expand on. So we're going to continue to add those LED high visibility stop signs where we can. And we're also going to continue to find ways to improve. Again, we don't have one specific document addressing overall safety on the street, but we do continually go back and reevaluate where we can improve.
Okay, and we have someone raising their hand. Who is that? Okay, thank you. Bill Warabitz.
Hello there, can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you, Bill.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I didn't want you to repeat yourself. That's why I asked for a document. I'm not looking for some official document. But matter of fact, I just came in 15, 20 minutes ago walking my dog, and two kids almost got hit on Second and Cedar, riding their bikes. So what I was looking for, I didn't want you to repeat because I forgot about this meeting and I just joined it. That screams for a four-way stop. We've got to find any way to put a four-way stop in there. If you put the LED light stop signs, it's not the people coming from Second Avenue either way. It's coming from Cedar either way. People stop because they think it's a four-way stop. We've got to find some way to put a four-way stop there. And the sight line for, I don't know if it's been addressed, Winslow and Second. You cannot see cars coming from Cranford. Absolutely not. So I'm just, if these, this could be addressed. I know you guys are looking into things, but someone's going to get hurt again or killed. I'm just saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. We're all diligently writing that down. I do want to ask the chief to just speak a little bit on what pedestrians and cyclists could do to be more visible. And we had rolled out in December. End of 2020, a free pedestrian cyclist desk that you can pick up to the police department. So I will ask you how many vests you gave out. And, I heard the rumblings that a couple people thought that was maybe in some ways silly, but I really don't find that silly. I don't think you do either, Chief, because it does really help. I think we're talking about, well, now it's 8 o'clock at night, children riding bicycles. If you're in dark clothing, you're not helping your cause. And so, everyone has a part to play in this, that we want to make sure that pedestrians and cyclists, children, adults, senior citizens are putting themselves in positions to be safer. So, maybe to some the best was silly. To me, I put it on.
Yeah, Mayor, at last total, it was over 300 vests that were given out, and they were given out to anybody that came into headquarters and asked for one. We didn't ask if you were a resident. We didn't ask if, you had special needs or anything else. If you wanted a high visibility vest, you got one. I did see initially when we did hand them out, in those early morning hours coming to work, you'd see people riding their bikes, people walking their dogs, wearing a vest. I thought it was great. I've seen less and less over time. Again, it gets lighter earlier, so maybe that's one of the reasons. But I do encourage anybody who's going to be out and about in those, especially twilight hours where eyesight has not adjusted yet to the minimum lighting, that those high visibility vests are very effective. And again, we'll keep giving them out if people ask for them. As far as Cedar is concerned, we do want to address certain issues with Cedar. One of the bigger problems we have is that hill. And those cars approaching from over that hill, it's not, they don't have a long time to visualize the intersection on their approach from over the hill. So that's one of those issues that we want to see if we can set up with rumble striping, some further warning signs, and to do more enforcement, like I said, with speed enforcement. And hopefully we can make that a safer area as well. We did put in the rapid control flashing beacons. And again, I encourage everybody, if you're at that intersection, please use them. They are very, very good at signaling people approaching over that hill.
Do we have anyone else that would like to ask a question or state a
Yes, I
comment?
have a couple written comments here.
Thank you.
My apartment window faces Cedar and Second, and over the 6 years I've been here, I've seen a lot of speeding and running the signs. I personally feel that these speeders don't look at those and can't recall what you called them. They just go on. Maybe we could have a rail stop light installed. And then another comment, how about speed humps on Cedar?
Okay. Both of those issues we're going to take a look at. Again, if I'm looking at either a traffic control device or four-way intersection or speed hump, I'm going to do that through, number one, a traffic study, and then forwarding that to the engineer who's going to give me their recommendation on what we can do to make that intersection safer. The initial things we can do, the simple things that we could do are things like rumble striping and further illuminating the stop signs and putting in those flashing beacons. Those are things I can do without worrying about DOT regulation or anything else. We can just do simple and effective road improvements that way. But if I do anything major when it comes to traffic control devices, they would have to go through a recommendation by the borough engineer who's doing everything according to the specs of MUTCD standards.
MUTCD stands for Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, just so the public know.
Thank you, sir.
No more comments or any hands? Okay.
I could just add one more thing as we're just seeing if anybody has any last minute comments. I would just like to encourage anybody who's tempted to post issues that they have online to first call us and report it to us. If we read it 3-4 days after the fact, it's really hard for us to really follow up on an investigation. But if you do see something happening, give us a call and let us go out there and do a proper investigation. So we're seeing that more and more where people would post things online rather than call us, and we really don't get the information that way. So please.
Thanks for sharing that, Chief. I totally agree. And, don't feel like you're bothering the police department. They're here for you. Yeah, I know back in many years ago, people would actually call the police department to see who won the local election. I don't know if people still do that anymore, but nothing is too small or not important for our police department. They're our first line for a reason, and they're all wonderful people. The dispatchers are excellent. And so please, you're not bothering anyone. Please call our police department. And this will be a last call of sorts. Is there anyone else who wishes to share a comment or ask a question, you can do so in the chat or raising your hand so that our moderator here could unmute you.
Just have a thank you from a resident regarding help she received from a dispatcher regarding an issue with her registration with DMV.
Very nice. We're always happy to hear those. Okay. So just to conclude, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And remember, please reach out, call our police department, contact Chief Wright directly, contact myself directly, contact Mr. Harris. We are all here to help you and to also make Garwood the best place it absolutely can be and the safest place it can be. So please remember, we're in this together, whether we're driving, walking, biking. We just need to make sure we're paying attention and we're putting ourselves in the best position. So if that means wearing a vest at night, that's what it means. Also, make sure you're putting yourself in the best position when it comes to your cars, your homes, that sort of safety. As the chief said, make sure you're not leaving the key fob in the car, leaving your car or your home unlocked. Let's set ourselves up for success here. And Chief, I want to thank you for your time tonight and the presentation that you made, as well as your responses to all of the residents who had questions. Mr. Harris, thank you to you as well. And no one can see her, but Jacqueline is here as our moderator tonight, doing a fantastic job. Again, this was the first one of these formats, but I think it worked out really well, and I'd like to use this format in the future for other topics.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, Mayor. And absolutely, anytime you need me to come in and do one of these, it's great. I just can't wait till we start doing these in person again. So whenever.
I agree. I rather look at a room of people than maybe just one. So again, thank you everybody for joining us.